He was packing all week and today was the actual weekday, so.
Yeah, we were kind of tracing kind of preliminary for September circular.
I didn't move over 10
One
years.
of the items.
Maybe they took it down. That's-
Like my sister,
Oh, no, here.
every freaking year there for a bunch of years, and she was at university and she lived in Halifax.
We got a minute. Whole minute, yeah. Hi, Jen. Not hearing me. Catch up with you later. We got a whole full house here tonight.
Good to see you, Mike.
Hello, Mike.
My sister had an upright piano.
How's your summer going? Thank you. How's your summer going? By you, or did you have to get a, you
No,
usually get a
I-
specialty
I-
mover.
I-
Yeah, they do drive down in the middle. Gonna say, you can't pay for pizza for that. but-
No. Yeah.
Yeah, right, I'm ready to roll.
Right on.
I got all bills.
Good evening, everyone. This is the regular monthly council meeting of the municipality of the county of Colchester, August 28. And I'm going to ask our CAO for roll call, please.
Thank you very much. So we'll start with the chair, Mayor Blair,
Present.
Councillor Weatherby,
Present.
Councillor Sanderson, Councillor Richardson,
Present.
Councillor Cooper,
Present.
Councillor Johnson, Councillor Leggett, Councillor Martell,
Present.
Councillor Patton,
Present.
Councillor Benoit,
Present.
Councillor Fletcher,
Present.
Councillor Kennedy.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. In peace and friendship and in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, I acknowledge that we live in the municipality of Colchester, lives in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq. You have a copy of the agenda before you, Council. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'm prepared to entertain a motion. The agenda be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Weatherby. Any discussion on the motion?
What's the question?
The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, contrary-minded nay. Motion is carried. The agenda is approved as presented. You have a copy of your minutes from the meeting held on June 25, 2025. I'm prepared to entertain a motion with regards to those minutes. Moved by Councillor Cooper, the minutes be accepted as presented, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sanderson. Discussion on the motion? The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, contrary-minded nay. The motion is carried. The minutes of June 25, 2025 are accepted as presented. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Hearing none, we shall move on to the next item, our standing committee reports and recommendations. And Deputy Mayor Sanderson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Proposed amendments, municipal fees policy, that council approves amendments to the municipal fees policy as presented, and a copy of the municipal fees policy is attached. I so move.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Martell. Discussion on the motion?
Question.
The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, contrary-minded nay. The motion is carried.
Excuse me, is it too late to ask a question?
We did just pass the motion.
Get it out.
Council, would you agree to allow a question? Councillor Kennedy, proceed, please.
Oh yeah. I was concerned with the cost for putting on solar panels. It's $1,000. Why would we have a cost on something that we want to promote?
I will ask our CAO to address that, please. Yes.
I'm actually
Or
going to have
Paul?
to defer that. to-
Okay, our Director of Community Development, Paul, please.
I'm sorry, that was under the fees policy?
Well, maybe that's the next section. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because we, solar panels only have a flat fee of $25.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I misunderstood the.
Okay,
Okay.
not a problem. So the next item, Deputy Mayor Sanderson, please.
Thank you. Council proceedings and committee policy amendments concerning planning advisory committees. That council approves amendments to the council proceedings and committees policy as presented, and a copy of the council proceedings and committees policy is attached. I so move.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Weatherby. Discussion on the motion? Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The next item is the Planning Advisory Committee report from July 22, 2025. Councillor Johnson, would you like to address this, please?
Oh, well, Mayor, thank you. So on July 22nd, the Central Planning Advisory Committee met to discuss the following. Committee reviewed the application of Tammy, Rayner-Reeves, and Jason Reeves in a development agreement through 7 College Road for multiple development, 4 dwellings per unit, so 16 units. Jill McGill provided an overview of the proposal, including 2025, the Colchester Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw were adapted. The property is zoned R3, residential medium density, and is vacant at the present. The owners have requested to enter a development agreement with the development of multiple unit dwellings. They provided a review of several relevant planning policies as well as comments from internal staff and external agencies. Comments and questions were received from community members and provided by staff and the applicant. There were questions from PAC members and answers provided by staff and the applicant. The committee recommended that the council give first reading of the proposed development agreement and authorize a second reading and a public hearing. So I'd make a motion that we send it to first reading and have a second reading after that.
Thank you. And do it, seconded by Councillor Patton. Discussion on the motion?
Question.
The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. We'll move on to our action items, and the first item is the first reading of the proposed development agreement on lands owned by Tammy, Rayner-Reeves, and Jason Reeves at 307 College Road in Bible Hill. And so I'll ask our Director of Community Development, Paul, to address this, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this action item essentially operationalizes what Councillor Johnson had indicated, whereas the Planning Advisory Committee had recommended in favor of advancing the application by Jason and Tammy Reeves for the development Councillor Johnson described. So this really just gives notice of council's intention to hold a public hearing, which would be scheduled for the regular council meeting in September 25th, I believe. So you can approve first reading and advance it to second, or not to.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Aaron. I can put the cart before the horse. But anyway, we made the motion there anyway, but I'd like to add a public hearing along with second reading.
It's on the proposed motion.
Yeah, right.
Yes, but your report was a recommendation.
I know, but I did make a motion.
You gotta adjust it.
I'll make it again if you want, just to know that. If it wasn't, I'm gonna make that and I'll make it here this time.
Okay.
Because I did make that motion and we did.
Yes, yes.
So we'll do it again. Council approves first reading the application for proposed development agreement 307 College Road is presented, receiving a public hearing and second reading.
All right, moved by Councillor Johnson. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Patton. Right, thank you. So you have had the recommendation from the committee, and now this is the motion to proceed. Approves that first reading and to proceed to a public hearing and second reading. Any discussion on this motion? Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, contrary-minded nay. The motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. The next item on the agenda is the first reading of the deer feeding bylaw. And I'm going to ask Devin to try to address this, please. Devin.
Thank you, Mayor Blair. As mentioned, this item is to consider first reading of the deer feeding bylaw. The urban deer or increasing urban deer population has been something that's been discussed around the table for a number of years and has been an issue that we've continued to try to address. And obviously feeding deer in the urban areas can occasionally be a contributing factor to that issue. So at the last, you'll recall, I think it was the June council meeting actually, that we had looked at a general wildlife feeding bylaw. And council chose not to move forward with that, but expressed interest in kind of a more focused bylaw that would address feeding of deer. And also had expressed concern around the issue of enforcement of a bylaw. So following that council meeting, I spoke with our municipal solicitor, and he had pointed me in the direction of a couple of other deer feeding bylaws in other jurisdictions in the country. I kind of looked those over and narrowed down to one that we kind of built from, I guess, to narrow down the one that you see before you. It's fairly simple and straightforward, similar to the one that was presented with the wildlife in June. And it's important to note as well that this is really a tool, I guess, to use as a deterrent. I think if residents recognize that there is a bylaw against the feeding of deer, it'll be and something that can at least deter people from that activity. Again, if someone is perhaps reported as feeding or going against the bylaw, kind of an initial step would be a letter to inform them of the fact that there is a bylaw that exists and that what they're doing is against the law, I guess, against the bylaw. So I think that would be a deterrent for the majority of folks. Certainly, if there's always the extreme occasion where folks push the limits, and in that case, we would have to rely on kind of our existing bylaw enforcement staff within the organization as it is, and perhaps look at increasing. And that would also be a decision down the road. But I mainly want to emphasize that also that this is kind of a tool that if we want to explore more further measures to address the deer population, similar to what's been discussed in the past about perhaps a managed urban deer hunt, that there are a number of boxes that the municipality has to kind of check that prior to being able to advance to something of that nature. So one of those recommendations that we had received was to implement some sort of bylaw that would deter or be used as a tool to deter that activity. So that being said, you'll note in the bylaw, it's fairly straightforward. As mentioned, there are a few exemptions that are trying to address, folks' gardens and those types of things. Also it addresses issues around feeding of birds. Certainly if encouraging folks to put those in a device as opposed to on the ground, for example, that might attract deer. Addresses anyone who's, permitted to farm deer, those types of things. And discourages basically the putting down food or attractants. And it does address the issue of hunting if you're doing so in a legal kind of a hunting type of a situation. I'll kind of leave it at that because I think the bylaw is fairly short and straightforward. And if there are any questions, myself or our municipal solicitor will assist in answering those.
Thank you, Devon. I'm prepared to entertain a motion with regards to this bylaw. Deputy Mayor Sanderson.
I would like to move that council approves by way of first reading the deer feeding bylaw.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Richardson. Now, any discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor Sanderson.
Just a question through you to Devon, just wondering how we're going to communicate this to residents. I know there's signage in the town of Truro or Village of Bible Hill that suggests people not feed the deer.
Devon, please.
Yeah, sure. So certainly using our usual tools like newsletter, social media, working with the village, they have pretty good signage now, but there's some other areas within the municipality that we've kind of expanded the scope of that the urban deer issue too. So essentially looking at signage and those types of things as well. But yeah, I would foresee just kind of, you know, when we do have that implemented, that we can, in addition to education, informing people that this bylaw exists, if it should go through.
Thank you, Devon. Any other questions? Any further discussion? The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is the pumping station replacement tender. And I'll ask our Director of Public Works, Michelle, to address this, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item is before council this evening. It relates to the award of a tender for replacing 2 sewage pumping stations. It did get distributed later because the tender only closed on Friday, so apologies for being a couple of days late. But this tender is for the replacement of 2 pumping stations, one in Hilden, which is near the Truro Road Crossroad, and the other one on Roby Street, which is across from Boston Pizza. Couple of issues with these stations. They are older, nearing the end of life. They don't have valve chambers, which are now our standard to reduce confined space entry. For pumping station 7 on Roby Street, because we have such a small area there for maintenance, we did look at acquiring more property to support the build. Because we weren't able to do that, we are proposing to move that pumping station across the street. So it'll be still in the public right of way, but in the grassed area near Boston Pizza. So what we did is we hired EXP to do the design for these 2 pumping stations. We did tender it publicly on the municipal procurement website, the provincial procurement, as well as the municipal website. As you'll see in your item, we received 1 tender for that from Atlantic Snow and Ice Management, and the bid price was $1,156,208, excluding HST. We did review the tender. It is deemed to be complete. Atlantic Snow and Ice Management is a fairly new company, although they have done some work for us as well as for the village and the province. And so far, we've not had any concerns, and we're happy with the quality of that work. Council agrees to approve the tender award. The work would start September 29th and take about 5 weeks. In terms of resource implications, we did, when council approved the 5-year budget last year, we included $500,000 in this fiscal for the Roby Street pumping station, and we include $550,000 in this fiscal year for the Hilden pumping station. The Hilden station is 50% funded by the Municipal Capital Growth Program, and Roby Street would be fully funded by our own capital reserves. So the total approved budget from last year was $1.05 million. It's a little bit tricky because council will see this evening the capital budget for this year is in the package. We have updated the pricing for these 2 stations to $1.3 million because moving Roby Street across the road there is going to cost a little bit more money. So what we're asking for is an award of this tender to Atlantic Snow and Ice. That will result in an approximate project commitment of $1.33 million. And as I noted in the draft capital budget for this evening, we're asking for 1.3 million for those two projects. Happy to answer any questions about this tender.
Thank you very much. I'm prepared to entertain a motion. Councillor Weatherby,
Madam Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion that council approves awarding the tender for the replacement of 2 sewage pumping stations. More specifically, pumping station 7 in Lower Truro, pumping station 9 in Hilden, Atlantic Snow and Ice Management, for a total contract amount of 1.156208.80, excluding HST.
thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Richardson. And discussion on the motion, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Michelle.
Yes,
Is it odd that we only received one tender, and what's your thoughts that we might only receive one tender? Is everybody busy, or is it just the scope of the work just wasn't there for certain people at the right time? What are your thoughts?
Through the chair, so there are a few things. One is gutting and replacing a pumping station is a little bit specialized. It's not linear infrastructure, so we wouldn't necessarily see the traditional, weeks construction or whatnot. It's also later in the season, and so most of the contractors have reached out to us and say, hey, we're fully occupied now, so don't have the capacity to take it on. So I think between those two, that's the explanation why we only received the one tender. But it is within the range we expected, and so recommending that we go ahead.
Thank you. It's nice to see a local company get it too.
thank you. Councillor Weatherby.
Sorry. My apologies, I forgot.
Oh, okay. Any further questions? Any further discussion? Then are you ready for the question? The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
A contrary-minded nay. The motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is our capital budget approval, and I'll ask our Director of Corporate Services, Scott, to address this, please. Will you be doing anything on screen or?
I don't have anything particular to put on the
Just-
screen, so I was just gonna do a verbal report and walk through the item if that's okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
Absolutely, thank you. Scott, please.
Thanks, your worship. Tonight we have in the action item, the capital budget for council's consideration. In terms of capital and what it is, I know for those that are new around the horseshoe, we did a budget a few months ago, which we called our 25-26 operating budget. And that's a different type of document than what you're looking at here tonight and what you've been reviewing this week. I always tell people that the operating budget is your day-to-day processing. So, plowing streets, processing waste. It's what we do on a day-to-day basis. So in that sense, it's very much an income and expense based budget. What you're looking at here is more in terms of the infrastructure. So it's the tools that we need to do the work. It's the investment in things like sewer lines and water lines. So it's physical assets. So it's much more of a balance sheet exercise than a income statement exercise. In that sense, the province in its wisdom a number of years ago decided that municipalities should be doing a 5-year capital budget, which makes sense because when you invest in infrastructure like this, it's typically a much larger investment up front. And then it has a useful life, which can range anywhere from, 5 years to 50, 75 years, potentially. So when you're making investment decisions on things like that, it's quite important and it can have long-term impacts. In terms of the document itself, I'll just kind of try to explain a little bit of it for you. There's a number of schedules here, and Schedule A, when you look at it, it basically lines up all the different projects that we have slated per year, what those are, and you'll notice that they're color coded. So The salmon color, that's projects that are already being worked on and are in the final stages of completion. The green, they're projects that have been on the 5-year budget previously, and they're just moving up into the current year. And then yellow are new projects. So those are things that have just gotten added since the last approval. So a lot of times I tell people there's not usually a lot of huge changes in these budgets because they're 5 years and things start to move up year after year. So they're typically things that you've seen before in the past. Then when you read this document, like I said, first you see what the project is, what the cost is, and then the next several columns are how we pay for the project. So there's a number of different ways you can pay for capital infrastructure. The typical ones are reserves. When we're fortunate to receive grant funding, we receive provincial or federal dollars, and that contributes towards the cost of a project. Area rates, and then lastly, debt. We haven't had to do a lot of borrowing since I've been here. I think I've seen maybe one case where we borrowed. In terms of a project, there's a thing called the cost of capital. A project has a lower cost of capital when you start with grant funding. If you're able to get grant funding, then the project costs you, half of what it might cost you if you're getting 50-cent dollars. Reserves, that's the second step. Area rates, and then lastly, if you need to go and you borrow. And I always say that's the more expensive way typically, because then you're incurring interest. So in terms of this year, 25-26, you'll see that at the bottom of that year, we have anticipated in Schedule A work being completed worth 23 million. And then when you go across on each of those projects, you'll see how we anticipate we'll fund them. I won't go through all the list, but I will highlight a couple things. In terms of the yellow projects or the new projects, we have capital upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant for 448,000. There's a solar project for Nelson Park and the Discovery site for 70,000. The sewer treatment plant equipment in Brookfield is 61,000. The pumping station number 7 is 750,000, and then the central wastewater treatment plant has a lower overhaul, and that's 500,000. In terms of the projects that are already on the list, the major projects that you'll see there, the Fundy Discovery Site Bridge is 9.8 million. The Balefield closure capping of cells is 3.9 million in change. Those are two of the major ones that stick out on the current year. Then in 2026, 27, so that'll be our next upcoming year. Again, the same format, and you'll see projects that are already going to be started are in the salmon color. Projects that we've already had on the bench for some time are in green, and new projects are in yellow. And in terms of those projects, I bring to your attention a couple major projects that are on the books for the upcoming year that starts in April. And the big one here that is quite notable is the airport upgrade. So we've built that in over multi-years. The first phase of that would be in the upcoming fiscal year or year 2 of this budget. And its first phase would be 9.4 million, and that would be for the milling and paving of runways. Other major projects in here, we do have in 6 million for the roundabout in Debert. And we also have 1.5 million for courthouse renos, and that's the ramp and entrance and elevator. So accessibility requirements that we need to do for municipally owned buildings. Basically, the same format takes place with Schedule B. Again, the difference being that Schedule B is sort of more equipment based and smaller projects. And you'll see under Schedule B, a list of all the different equipment that we're proposing for year one. Again, how we pay for it, well, there's a number of different typically reserves. So there's a public works vehicle reserve for public works equipment. The bail fill has a couple of reserves as well for equipment and for capital. So cases where they may have to do things like cell replacement or capping, there's reserves available for those. And the courthouse has a reserve as well. So projects that we see that we may be doing here, capital upgrades to this building, we would typically fund them through the courthouse capital reserve. The other schedules that I put in the package for this item relate to how we're going to pay for these projects. So you'll see in the package after we look at the first two, Schedule A and B, which outlines all the projects. You'll see we have a debt service ratio schedule. So what I put together there is forecasting what our debt ratio is going to be for the municipality. And you'll see that right now for 25-26, we have it forecasted to be 4.72% debt ratio. The second year, it goes to down to 4.52. And then in the third year, it spikes up to 7.5. Fourth year, it goes up to just shy of 9%. And then in the fifth year of the budget, it goes to 9.6. So that's primarily related to the addition of the airport and funding the full cost of those upgrades. And if we were to do that through debt financing, it does put your debt up. Having said that, I'll make a couple comments on that. One being that we have a very low debt ratio right now. The province has a threshold that's set for municipalities of 15%. So if you get to 15% in your debt ratio, then it's like going to the bank and asking for a mortgage when you have a lot of debt on the books. They start to question you more. And so it's the same sort of situation. So you can easily go to 9% if you choose to, but you do have to take on the additional cost, which would be a principal payment annually and an interest payment. So that's something to be aware when we look at the airport project. The other thing I do is I forecast out the area rates. So I forecast for these three particularly because they're used for capital projects. So compost, at the end of 24-25, we had 105,000 in that area rate. And at the end of the fifth year, we'll have 187. So we don't really see any potential for us using that fund in the next 5 years for infrastructure costs. It'll start to increase because of that. Sewer capital, it kind of goes up and down a little bit, and that's because it's used quite heavily in certain years for sewer projects. So typically we try to fund a sewer project. It may be 50% through the area rate, 50% through federal provincial funding, or 50% through gas tax. So you'll see on that one, we've got right now a balance of about 1.1 million. And over the 5 years, it goes down as low as 4,200. But at the end of the 5 years, it's back up to 321,000. So when we look at those numbers, I say that's okay, it's doable. If we don't have the funds to cover it and it was to go into a negative situation, then we'd say we may have to defer something. But fortunately, when we look at all the projects on that 5-year list, there's money there to do them. The same with the active transportation rate. We started off the year with 2.3 million almost. And again, because of different projects that are in this document, it fluctuates a bit. So it'll go down to 1 million in year 2. And then it'll go back to 2.1 million, 1.5 million, and then year 4 is 2.5, and year 5 is 3.3. So it fluctuates a bit, but again, the point I'm making is there's money there for the projects. And then the last schedule is the reserves. And again, the same idea, forecasting out what the reserves are going to be and what they'll look like if we do these projects. And right now you'll see on total, there's about 26 million there to fund these projects. Each year that balance changes, decreases, goes down as low as 13 million in year 4, and then starts to build back up in year 5 to 17 million. So this is an ambitious capital budget. There's a lot of projects here. There's a lot of big projects like the Discovery Site Bridge and the airport. Upgrades to this building are sort of larger projects that are above and beyond what we've done in the past. So it does draw down on reserves a bit. You do have to take on a little bit of debt to do some of these projects. But I will say, in terms of the projects themselves, we did have a stipulation on the airport project, which is really the largest one, that it would come back to council before any decisions are made. So, although it's here and it's being budgeted for, there's still decisions to be made on that project. The other comments I'll make, I will say this is a living document. It changes. It's very flexible. It's really, for me, it's really about planning the next 5 years out and forecasting whether we can afford to do projects and not. So, it's not necessarily something that's carved in stone. It can be modified. It can be adapted. Projects come off it. Projects go on it. Throughout the course of the year, council may say we want to add projects A, B, and C. We no longer think we want to do project D, and we'll take that off. So very much a living document. The real purpose of it is just to plan, have financial stewardship. So you're making sure that the money's available, that the financing is available to do a project. I think where I've seen municipalities get into trouble is when they don't adequately plan out like this, and then they get hit with a large project and they have to put themselves into excessive debt or to try to fund a project. So by doing this exercise, we're kind of making sure we're aware of what we have in the bank to pay for things and accordingly. And I guess one last comment I will make, and I did sort of touch on it with the airport, but under policy now, the projects themselves, when council does approve the capital budget, the projects by policy are approved to go forward, with the exception of if they are over budget, then they come back to council for a tender approval.
Mm-hmm.
And council did make a couple of exceptions, I think, on that. Airport was one, so that does require further decision before anything further happens. The other one, I think, would be retrofitting of this building. It would be council had indicated in the past they wanted to come back before any decisions were made on what sort of major upgrade in place on this building, whether it be a complete renovation or an alternative location. So those sort of things, we'll have to go back to council, but do day-to-day stuff like, putting in sidewalks and sewer. You approve it and it's within budget, we go forward and proceed with them. I guess, having said that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you very much, Scott. I'd like to have a motion on the floor, please. Councillor Patton.
I move that we accept the capital budget as presented.
And do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Richardson. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Leggett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to Scott, several questions. You, in your last comment about policy approving this past year, does every one of these budgets then become approved next 5 years?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I would say that it's a 5-year budget, so they do get approved, but having said that, things change. So when I mentioned before, it's very much a living document. So if you see a project on there that's in year 4 or 5, that's a few years away, so things change. You know, and in it's not uncommon to get to year 2 or year 3 and a project that you had mapped out for the future may not be relevant anymore, or it may be, you know, there may be an alternative. So I'll give you the example of the roundabout. The roundabout's been on the budget for a number of years. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's for sure going to happen. It's possible that you may come back at some point and learn that there's another alternative to that, and then we would present that to council, and it may get changed in the budget when you come back in the future. So every year we come here with this 5-year roadmap, but it takes some changes over time. Things can change.
Okay, and on the, sorry, back to you, Scott, to the chair. On the Debert roundabout, we defeated that project this spring. To me, that comes off the budget. That's out until it's brought back by council for further action. Is that fair?
Our CAO, please.
Thank you, through the chair to Councillor Leggett. So last year we went out to tender and there was a decision on that one to defer it to essentially next year. And so that is an item we were looking to combine it with some other work and go out to the market and try and get a price on it. So essentially it got bumped down the road a year. And so that item is still alive in the budget. It doesn't disappear from the budget. It just gets bumped ahead 1 year. And so if that number were to come back under budget, then it would, an information note would come back to council to say, we've gone out to tender and we received information and we're under budget on it. Alternatively, if it came back and it was over budget, then we would bring it back to council and say, proceed or not proceed. That's what we would do with those items.
Thank you.
And you have further questions?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the bridge across the Sam River at the Tilabor site, and it was Palliser. We approved the budget or motion for 7.9 million plus a 10% contingency. So that's 800,000 on 7.9, takes you to 8.6 or 7. Now we're up to 9.8 on the budget. Where does that? Looking for a bit of an explanation on that, I guess.
Scott, please.
Yeah, I think that's in line with what we approved, but I'll defer that to Paul.
Yeah, you're right. There was an external project management expense, a contingency, and net HST, which brought the budget up to where it stands in this budget.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, Paul, I understand as well that it came in under budget, under what we had expected, even with the 9.8, is that correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it's under budget by just slightly over $1.5 million.
Thank you. And the other thing is that we have a grant for 73.3% of that project. So that would leave us with about, what, 2.9?
If I remember correctly, I think it was about 2.5.
2.5, okay. Thank you, just for that clarification. Sorry, Nigel, you have another question, I believe?
And just back to your point, it's not so much about where we are with money, it's just when we approve a motion for 7.9 and 10% contingency, and other numbers come in. You know, it's nice to know these things. I'm just looking for clarification.
And Paul, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor Leggett. That information was all contained in the action item that council approved in June.
And the next one is, sorry, Madam Chair, because whoever is the airport upgrades. I think this item should be off of the books for this year's budget, due to the fact that we're having a meeting next Tuesday to go over the pros and cons of Debert. So we're in essence trying to approve something here tonight that we're going to discuss in open forum next week to get everybody up to speed on what's going on. Furthermore, if this Debert job is going to go through, it should be much like the rec center, a one-shot deal. But you got to finance it. If we start doing this thing over a 4-year period, we're going to get ourselves into a point where we're too far down the road to get out of it. If we don't like it. So one and done, or in or out. And we should at least have a Class B estimate, plus or minus 10%, so we can actually make an informed decision before this goes forward. There are things that we could do this year. I submit this, I talked to the CAO the other day. We could go out there and fence that site. It gives us security. It gives us an identifying outline for the site. Anybody comes there and see what they're dealing with, even from a for sale perspective. You can say, here is the site, it's all fenced in. There'd be no more animal issues, four-wheeler issues. Our liability goes down significantly. It's a low-hanging fruit, I think should be added to the budget. At the end of the day, if we don't move forward, it's still a secure site, or whatever it is. Thank you.
And of course, that will be part of the discussion when we discuss the airport in the future. What we're doing right now with the budget is looking ahead to possible expenses. So we need to have a vision in that regard. And if we are putting some money on the budget, the very thing that our Director of Corporate Services just stated is that this budget is fluid, it's flexible, it's a living document, and it can change.
Okay.
So if we have money in the budget, then we are at least prepared for whatever contingency we choose to do in the future.
That explains a lot, but when Scott says, you know, when we approve this budget, everything's going forward, that's what I hear.
But he just said,
I know, but I asked for clarification, right? So
okay,
I'm just trying to,
all right, then,
it's just business.
then I hope that clarifies.
Yes, it does.
All right, good. Then further discussion? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Scott.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, I've got a couple of things here. How much more can we pull out of this budget? And then I'll throw one at you here, that we've been dealing with a Hudson development there for a while, or at least looking at a substantial development there, but there's nothing in here. And I know we're going to discuss maybe part of that next week. How many more millions we yank out of this thing? If we want to put infrastructure on the ground to start a development of it, to put water in, sewer in, run some roads in, so we may need an extra $2 or $3 or $4 million. How hard would it be for us to come back and ask you, where are you gonna find it at that point, if we decide to go ahead there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think, I guess in terms of just in general, saying that there's other projects that you may want at some point over the next 5 years, you want to come up with a project in, you know, in 6 months' time or in 2 years' time, and you come to council and it's something you're looking to do. You know, the municipality's in pretty good financial condition, I think. When I talk about the reserves, I said we have like, right now we have 26 million in some of the funds there. By year 5 of this budget, it goes down to 17.7. But there's still money in those reserves. So you know, the municipal, the operating reserve, special operating reserve, which is your most flexible source of funds. You can use it for almost anything. You know, we've got 10.4 million in there starting off. By the end of the 5th year, you've still got almost $8 million in it. So unless you come here and you want to do something that's, you know, 20 million, yeah, like, let's say you want to do a $20 million project all of a sudden, we may have a problem. I don't think that's the type of project you're talking about. So I think, you know, if it's general infrastructure, I think you're in pretty good shape to be able to take on some more. As long as you didn't go crazy with it.
All right, so just if I may go back, so you're
Yes.
saying we could probably do that without borrowing money?
That specific project, sure, yeah, but I think there is some funds in there, if I'm not mistaken, for that project that was in the.
26, 27.
We haven't decided to go there yet. The airport. I'll leave that alone for now. If I could hit that. Our building, I think everybody in the room knows where I'm sitting, our building in 28-29 to put $2 million in it, we'll decide that when we get down the road. Maybe the next council will decide that whenever that's gonna fall. So there's a couple things in here that I said it last year and I said it the year before, and we're not gonna stop the sidewalk where it's all be gone and start to build on it. But when I bring up again, and I brought up last year, I'm looking at us putting, active transportation sidewalks in the area that I just don't think we should be putting them in. One is that Pictou Road up to Proland Drive. When I know we're gonna split costs and we're getting 1.4, 1.5 from someone else, and we're gonna throw in 1.2. But I look at that when I drive by for a kilometer, 1.1, whatever the heck it is, I'm thinking, I just don't see that as being a good investment centrally. If I went around the table and asked everybody where you would pick to put a sidewalk in your community, I would expect that nobody's gonna say, run it from Valley Crossroads to Crowland Drive. That's just me. I would love to see, and I talked to Craig about this, with active transportation. Where does he want us to put sidewalks and where can we put it? Well, it's to tie communities together and tie in parks and, tie in schools. I don't think there's a lot of school kids walking down Crowland Drive all the way down the hill under the 104 to get to the Valley School, but I might be wrong, but I'm out there quite a bit. I don't know what Councilor Leggett has to say about it, but I just think that, I know we started to weigh in on that, but that's a project for next year. We could, we could pull that and do something else with it. I guess we made a decision here, but I said it last year on it, it's still there, and we decided to do nothing with it, and I'm not looking to. And I said to the Hilton one last year, I said, I'm not looking to stop it, to change it. But I'll tell you next year when I see something in there that I think should be changed, I'll voice my opinion and say it. But I think that we as council should have more input on where these active transportation sidewalks go. My knowledge, I've never been involved with any discussion with anybody on where do you think sidewalks should go in your community. Like it's done and sort of put in here and, away we go, we kind of follow it. Yes, but this is one that's blatant to me and it stands out. But I just want to hear if anybody else has anything to say about that. That's that one. So I had Debert, airport, courthouse, sidewalk. For me. I mean, it's not new to me looking at these. I've been sitting here for 4 years looking at them. So the first one was a little strange, but not now. But that's it. I'd like to hear from someone else on active transportation and sidewalks. And I'm looking down the road here, 28, 29. We're doing some smaller ones and none that really jump up and say we probably shouldn't be putting them there. But specifically, I'm saying, I don't think it should go. Just me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further discussion? I know that Deputy Mayor Sanderson.
Go ahead.
Crowland Drive was discussed at length. Citizens in the area that live in the subdivision on Crowland Drive and along Pictou Road where there are more housing units going in were really needed that sidewalk for safety issues, for walking. And it's not just school children, it's adults and people in the community that wanted to have the sidewalk. And we had considerable discussion on it. And it was approved by council. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Paul. It's my understanding we're reviewing our active transportation plan. Is that not correct?
Yeah, through the mayor to councillor, we are, and we're in the very early stages of that process. I would add to what the mayor had said earlier, there is a standing motion of council to pursue the Crowland Drive sidewalk. And you may, perhaps not the new councillors, but every June of every year, I came before council, we reviewed all of the active transportation connections in terms of their priority list. They get shuffled around sometimes. We reevaluated new sidewalks. Didn't do that this year because we're in the very early stages of developing an updated active transportation plan, and we will involve council, in those early stages as a stakeholder in that process and sort out what our priorities are.
Follow up, how long do you think that review process will take, Paul?
We've targeted April 1st of next year. It may take a little bit longer, just bringing the consultant on and it's been a bit delayed over this.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. My memory's pretty good. I don't remember a lot of discussions on Crowland Drive down there, but I guess my point is that I know there's other areas in the valley that don't have sidewalks. And I look at, let's say, and I brought it to the floor here to the previous council, let's say Ice Pond Drive has got 165 resident households up above, and the whole community's linked together with sidewalks, and it does have a school in the neighborhood, it does have one of our parks that we own. And I'm told that, sidewalks 25 years out in that neighborhood. It just doesn't make sense when I look at larger communities that are well utilized by walking people by large numbers. If you count the 20-some houses on Crowland Drive and the 20-some houses coming down the road, it just doesn't add up for me with the amount of people using that. I mean, it'd be like me saying Santa River Road needs sidewalks. I'm not gonna say that, but I'll tell you what, if Crowland Drive to Paving Crossroads needs sidewalks, Santa River Road needs sidewalks also.
Councillor Leggett.
Madam Chair, I'm willing to fall on the sword that Crowland Drive doesn't need a sidewalk. The person who uses that road every day, walking her dog, is not moved to Muscadog Harbor. That's probably outside of myself and herself, about the only person I've ever seen walking up them, other than Darren Frank's kid, does the military backpack thing up and down the side of the road every day. But that, to me, there are better places for a sidewalk. And that one I'll bring up is Robin Road from Teviot Place into the back of Valley Elementary. Short little piece, but all the kids now, because they no longer park in the church, parents are dropping them off, they're walking down the back of Robin Road, going in and out through that way. I mean, it's only a short piece of sidewalk, but there are far better. If you talk about active transportation, that's where the kids are going to school when they're walking. There's other places, like even getting through Redcliffe Middle School, like Teviot Place was designed to go all the way through, and it doesn't. That would be a great place to extend the sidewalk from Teviot down to Delaney, cut into those areas. But there's far better places in the valley for sidewalk than. Anybody wants to walk inside of Victor Road, it's a death sentence on a good day, let alone when you put a sidewalk on it. So, thank you.
Well, then perhaps what we need to do is review the possibility of sidewalks in the future under the budget that has a level of flexibility. If you make your case and bring it to council, then because certainly residents did support the Crowland Drive sidewalk from Valley Crossroads. But we do have a capital budget in front of us, council. There is a motion on the floor that council approves the 5-year capital budget as presented. And I'm prepared to,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Councillor Martel, I didn't see your light on. Councillor Martel.
Through the chair to Scott. So what we see today with this budget, there are other opportunities for grants and funding to pay for portions of the project, which there, as we build our infrastructure, would also contribute to our economic growth and potential additional funding from things like the wind farm, expansion and repairs of the Debert Airport, which a previous conversation at the council table, I believe we needed to put a formalized commitment so that our staff could move forward to seek some of those other sources of funding.
So with what we're seeing today, if other sources of funding and grants are available to fund some of these projects, that would in fact drop our debt ratio.
Yeah, certainly on the airport. I mean, if there was a federal provincial source of funds that became available, then that would lower our need to borrow. I know to date that hasn't. Staff have gone out and sort of been looking for sources of federal provincial money, and to date that hasn't been available. But those sorts of funds, when they become available, we're always looking for them, and being made aware through the province and the federal partners of new funding programs. So if something did come out, we certainly would be applying for it.
So as I look through this, certainly we're waiting on results of the hydrology study in Tattagast to find more source water for the village and for that water utility. Obviously, we can't add that to the budget now, but can that be added over the 5 years when we get the results of that study?
You mean in particular the hydrology study?
Funding, once we get the results from that,
Right.
how we get more water for that village.
Right.
So whatever projects need to be done, that is an urgent matter for my district. And I want to make sure that we have the potential to get that on a budget.
Yeah, I mean, the hydrology study itself is in the budget. The water tower is there as well. So depending on the outcomes of those, yeah, we have them built in the budget, I guess I should say. But depending on what the outcome is of the hydrology study will determine what steps are taken. And there's always opportunity to add more things to the budget over the next 5 years as well. You're welcome.
Thank you, Scott. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I'm prepared to make a plan that we accept the 5-year capital plan as presented.
We already have a motion on the floor. Yes, we do. That's that motion, and then we had our discussion. So, did you have another question or anything? No? Yes?
Oh.
Okay. All right then.
I will say I'm not going to support it because I want to pull that sidewalk from Pictou Road to Crowland Drive, and we find alternate sources to put that funds.
We all have the opportunity to vote as we choose. Okay, Councillor. It was moved by Councillor Patton and seconded by Councillor Richardson that council approves the 5-year capital budget as presented.
I'd like to see an amendment put on it if we could.
Are you putting an amendment? Are you making a motion to amend?
I would.
And your motion is what?
Is to accept it and pull the Pictou Road program sidewalk, and we'll find alternate places to build sidewalks with money.
Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Leggett. Discussion on the motion, on the amendment to the motion. Any discussion? Are you ready for the question? Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, thank you. If I go through Michelle, please.
Yes, you may.
So Michelle, if this motion was passed, what would that do to planning for 25-26 year? Like are you able to, like right now are plans made to do the sidewalk, ready to do tendering, everything like that, or?
Through the chair, so we have started some preliminary surveying, but we've not committed anything to the design and construction yet, other than some staff time, and so certainly not a big impact on public works other than allowing us to focus on other projects.
So as Councillor Leggett said, there's an area that significant travel by students. Want to put that on there, is that a possibility, or is that not a possibility?
Michelle, please.
Through the chair, and maybe this is something Paul would want to comment on as well, I'd recommend to council that if this project is coming out and the review of the AT strategy is ongoing in the next few months, I believe the consultants
Just
have
leave it.
plans to meet with every counselor and talk about their requests for sidewalks in certain areas, so it might be best to let that process somewhat play out. And then when we look at capital next year, then it could include perhaps a change in approach for sidewalks in every district.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, we have an amendment on the floor. Are you ready for the question? Question has been called. All those in favor to the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay?
Nay.
Nay. 2 nays, Councillor Kennedy and myself. The motion is carried. Now we look at the amended motion so that council approves the 5-year capital budget as amended. And the mover, Councillor Patton, and seconder, Councillor Richardson. Okay, any issue with that? It is as amended. Discussion on the motion?
Question.
The question has been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, council, and I appreciate your discussion. I also appreciate what staff does, and I do want to thank staff because looking for grants and stretching our tax dollars for the major projects that we have to do is something they do on a daily basis, and certainly appreciate all the hard work that you do putting all this together and following all of the direction that you receive through the CAO, and very much appreciate it for the work that you have been doing on our capital budget and our capital projects. The next item on the agenda is an award of the contract for the design of the Debert Wastewater Treatment Plant expansion. And I'll ask our Director of Public Works, Michelle, to address this, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item relates to the award of design services for the expansion of the Debert sewage treatment plant. Former councillors will recall that we did apply for funding to double the plant's capacity, and that would be to accommodate residential, commercial, industrial growth in the business park. We had budgeted $300,000 in fiscal 23-24 to complete the design work, but that was delayed for a couple of reasons. We were doing a receiving water study and had some background work to do. So that's all been complete, and now we're ready to move towards the detailed design of the expansion. So we did issue a public request for proposals for design services. And it was posted publicly. You can see in your item here, we received 3 submissions for design services by the closing date of August 8th. As we would normally do with technical proposals from consultants, we did rank them. We had 3 staff go through and evaluate the proposals as they were received. And you will see that CBCL were the highest score and also the lowest price proposal. So staff are recommending that we go ahead and award the design services to CBCL for their price of $359,000 change. Where this is a $6 million project, it is the design fees are quite reasonable in that range, given the size of the capital project. So as I noted, council's approved budget from last year had $300,000 design. But council's recently approved or reviewed capital that we just talked about. We did bump up the design fees to $500,000, and that will cover CBCL's fees as well as some archaeology that we have to do for that project as well. So staff are recommending that CBCL be awarded the design for Debert plant expansion for $359,000 excluding HST.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm prepared to entertain a motion. I'm prepared to put a motion on the floor.
Councillor Ben.
Oh, I didn't see the light. It was the way the was. Councillor Benoit, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion that council approves awarding the engineering services contract for the design of the Debert wastewater treatment plant expansion to CBCL for the total contract amount of $359,392, excluding HST, with an anticipated total design phase value of $438,849.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Patton. Discussion on the motion. The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you, council. The next item on the agenda is dangerous or unsightly repeat offenders. And Councillor Johnson, you added this to the agenda, and I'll ask you to address it, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've written a fair amount of these up over the last 4 years, and I don't know if I didn't write them all up, but I take the responsibility of writing them up on behalf of my residents, because I don't want them fighting with the neighbors on who writes them up. Or I feel it's part of my job to do that. So what I found, and I've got, I won't say names, but I have at least 3 residents that have been offenders and repeat offenders on this thing. And I was reading through someone else's, I guess, I don't know, it was a municipality answer, or who it was, but it was somebody to read through, and they had a bylaw set up that if somebody didn't comply, well, they complied within the 30 days, and then you go back out and do their thing. But if they, 6 months later, some of these repeat offenders were right back to where they were. I believe it was 2 years that we allowed our staff to carry on, and if I want to report it again, I don't really have to send a complaint form in, and it doesn't have to go to a committee, and it's a matter of someone driving by or look at it and say, yeah, repeat offender, and deal with it and look at it. So I'm just looking to expedite things here. And I just had another one, yesterday that was a repeat offender from last summer, and the exact same thing here. I'm going through the process again, writing it up, and I just want to have staff look at it. So I'll make a motion that I send this to staff. Staff can have a peek at it, see if they can streamline this thing to sort of draw it out, say within a 2-year span, without us having to go and fill a complaint letter again, going through the committee to deal with it. So, and see where we go from there. I'll put that on floor as a motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Leggett. Discussion on the motion to send this issue to staff. Councillor Cooper.
Is that a question for you, Solicitor?
Yes, of course.
So are any of these things to taken care of, I'll use the word, does it have to go through a formal motion or legality wise, or need to do what? Suggested here.
So the way the MGA works and the way that the bylaw has been set up, the only things that need to go to DUC are demolitions or appeals of an order. And so anything else staff can handle. The practice has been to handle it, by way of complaint. So a complaint comes in, but a complaint's not required under either the bylaw or under the MGA for a process to be initiated by staff. So all that needs to be determined is that the premises meet the definition of dangerous or unsightly for an order to be issued, as long as it's a cleanup order. If the recommendation is going to be for a demolition, then that does have to go to DUC. And I would also note, there is specific language in the bylaw dealing with repeat offenders right now. Where that comes in is there's 2 places. One is that the standard timeline for a repeat offender is shorter. So it's only 7 days as opposed to the 30 days for a first time offender. And then there is the ability under the bylaw to deal with penalties. So essentially a SOT process. So a first offense of not cleaning up is between a $500 and $1,000 fine. Second offense is between $1,000 and $2,500, and then third and subsequent it goes up to between $2,500 and $5,000. And that's dealing with what we call common property owners. So if it's the same owner and they have multiple properties and there's issues on those multiple properties, those can be considered together under that ticket process. So the ticket process doesn't have to be used, but it can be used as a secondary kind of enforcement option for a repeat offender.
So would that come into play if staff we adopted what's being suggested here? Staff did that'd be considered a second time.
I guess what
Come before the board and consider a second time, or
what I'm understanding Councillor Johnson's request might be more of a practice on staff's part in terms of taking subsequent steps, not necessarily an amendment to the bylaw. I think the tools are there under the bylaw. It might just be, it sounds like it's just a request to look at practices.
CAO, please.
Thank you, so through the chair. So based on this discussion, kind of what I would suggest is, and particularly I know there's some counselors have not, been in a situation where there's been a dangerous or unsightly request that's come through them we can come back with just simply, an outline of how these get treated, kind of a backgrounder for counselors who have not been. And this is our process. And if there's a step in the process that council thinks maybe something from another jurisdiction or something they'd like to have altered, then that can be just simply direction that then I can lead to staff from an operational perspective. So there may be already enough tools in the toolbox, just our process might need some adjusting if council's wishing to go a different way on it. So we come back with just simply a staff report that says, here's how it works. And then it gives council an opportunity to see if it's working the way they would hope it would work.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Haven't been on before. I have familiarity, so other people wouldn't. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And so we do have, we didn't vote on that motion. We do have a motion on the floor to send this to staff, and given the comments that our CAO has made, it would be an information and process information sheet from staff. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is C-can containers, and Councillor Leggett, you added this, and I'll ask you to address it, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Council. I bring this up, I'm looking for a consistency in the county. C-cans have become in vogue in the last probably 10 years for storage, either habitation, even rental properties, even up the Seek Wilderness. But what is the issue with the C-can? We are identifying the C-cans as an issue. Somebody has.
Would you put your
Oh, sorry.
microphone on so we can hear
Sorry.
you better? Yeah.
But what I don't understand is I can go put many other things in my backyard that could be more unsightly than a C-can, and nobody can do anything about it. I can go buy an old truck body and stick in my backyard. Can't say a word about it. There's all kinds of C-cans kicking around everybody's neighborhood. We've all seen them. So if one person doesn't like, or if there's a bylaw and one person brings it forward, is that the minority controlling the majority? Or is that just a quick case of the bylaws being enacted? And do the bylaws actually reflect the reality of what's going on in today's world? I don't think they belong everywhere, but if they're kept neat and tidy, and if they match, they paint in the same color as their garage or their house or something, make them look less, they don't say, hey, Paggle away down the side of them or something, not so bad. But I'd like to have staff review the policy to see if there's a better alternative. Because if you are in the municipal, what is it called? The rural general area, you're not allowed to have them, but outside of that, you are. Yes, sir.
The reverse.
Reverse.
It's the R2 residential.
Okay, R2 residential is not allowed to have them, but as we get growing, more subdivisions are coming along, then you have to grandfather the people who might have them in another subdivision when that comes along, it pops up. So I think it'd be nice to have a review of it and see if there's any accommodations can be made, or we start telling everybody's got a C-can in the R2 area to alternative home.
So are you putting a motion on the floor, Councillor Leggett, that staff review this situation and bring some information back to council?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Johnson. Discussion on the motion? Anything further, Councillor Leggett?
I would just.
And I'll go to our Director of Community Development, Paul, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's a matter that ought to be referred to the Planning Advisory Committee for review. So the Planning Advisory Committee and staff through that process will look at mitigating some of the impacts and where they forming a recommendation on where and how they can exist in mostly our central areas.
Thank you, Paul. Are the mover and seconder in agreement with that instead of sending to staff to send to Planning Advisory Committee? Councillors? Councillor Johnson? Okay. And Councillor Johnson, you want to address this?
I will. I first stumbled on this in an executive meeting back a number of months ago, and I spoke up on it at that point, and I, was totally against not having C cans. I know there's something to say with you guys, probably at the other, where we have them, but we'll decide that when we get to PAC. I just want to bring up, there is, at this point, I think we've already moved forward with trying to go to court with somebody with a C can somewhere in Bible Hill. That's why it came to the executive at that point. I think that we should put a hold on that until we do a full study here at PAC and report back to staff. And I don't know when that's coming up. I know it's coming up here this fall.
We could check on that during the process that we're dealing with right now. Okay. Any further comments? Then are you ready for the question? Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. The motion is carried. The next item on our agenda is our correspondence that requires action. And the first piece of correspondence is from Ken Farr, Interim Executive Director, Canadian Institute of Forestry, a letter of June 27, 2025, concerning an invitation to declare September 21 to 27, 2025 as National Forest Week. I would be prepared to entertain a motion to proclaim. Moved by Councillor Cooper. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Sanderson. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. The motion is carried. The September 21 to 27 will be proclaimed by the municipality as National Forest Week. The next item is an email from Janet Drysdale, CN Senior VP, and it concerns a proclamation for Rail Safety Week from September 15 to 21, 2025. I'm prepared to entertain a motion to proclaim, moved by Councillor Benoit, seconded by Councillor Kennedy, that we proclaim Rail Safety Week, September 15 to 21. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the question has been called. Okay then, Councillor Johnson.
If she's a senior VP, I'd sure love to add to get things going on the CN bridge on the eastern side.
And while I
we can move pretty quick here, but they sure can on their end.
While I recognize that, I think that's a discussion.
Just can't with it.
I'm not surprised. It is an issue, definitely is an issue. And it's certainly something we've had a number of conversations on. But right now we're dealing with the proclamation. And I do have a mover and a seconder. And any discussion on the motion? Then are you ready for the question? Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Reminded nay. The motion is carried. And Rail Safety Week will be proclaimed September 15 to 21. The next item is from Jill McGillicuddy, Senior Planner, a memo to Council concerning an application for a land use bylaw rezoning amendment for property located at 2204 Highway 4. I believe that's at Folly Mountain. Folly Mountain, is it? Folly Mountain. Okay. And I'm prepared to entertain a motion with regards to that. It's recommended it be referred to Councillor Fletcher.
I'd like to make a motion to refer to BAC.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Sanderson. That the matter be put forward to the Planning Advisory Committee. Any discussion on that motion? Question, Councillor Fletcher?
Can I just make a little statement? I was actually talking to the owners or people that are wanting to make this happen.
Yes,
And I gotta give them credit. They did go around to neighbors and ask and talk to the neighbors and get their feedback on this whole project, which I thought was pretty impressive. So, and it does sound like a really good project for that area. So my thoughts.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Councillor Benoit?
Thank you, Mayor Blair. And I'm gonna echo the same. They reached out to me thinking that it was in my district and let them know that it was in Councillor Fletcher's district, but they are very excited about it. I asked them a few questions. They, like she said, one of the questions I asked is if they had spoke to their locals and residents, and they did, and I thought that was wonderful that they took that initiative and did that. And it sounds like they've got a great plan ahead of them, so I wish them all the luck.
Thank you. Are you ready for the question? Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. The matter will be referred to Planning Advisory Committee on the amendment for 2204 Highway 4. The next item on the agenda is a memo to council from Jill McGillicuddy, Senior Planner, concerning an application for a development agreement for a development located at 53 Ravine Drive in Truro Heights. And I'm prepared to entertain a motion. It is Deputy Mayor Sanderson.
I would move that this item be referred to Planning Advisory Committee.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Cooper, that this be referred to the Planning Advisory Committee. Any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. The development agreement for development located at 53 Ravine Drive will be referred to PAC. Next item is a letter from Larry Bjornson, Starlit Beach Village, a letter to the CAO requesting an opportunity to address council on the negative impacts of the marketing levy. And I'm prepared to entertain a motion with regards to this. Councillor Martel.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion and speak to it. I'd like to make a motion that council extend an invitation to Larry Borson and the group of accommodation operators from the North Shore area noted in his letter to council, which is included in our August 28th council package, so that as a group, they may present the unique concerns to our council, allowing us to understand and contemplate the specific negative impacts of the marketing levy on this group as we continue to establish governance for the marketing levy.
Basically, then your motion is to ask the group to do a presentation to council.
To invite them to do a presentation.
Yes, okay. As they have requested,
Mhm.
per their request. Okay. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Fletcher. Discussion on the motion? Councillor Martel.
Okay, at various times in the past few months, I've been contacted by accommodation owners in the Tatamougash area who have asked how they could engage with us as council to share their experiences and concerns as a whole to council. Good communication and an openness to listen and understand various perspectives strengthens us in our roles. We experienced the impact firsthand regarding the outcry of the community at the announcement of the shutdown of the spring in Lower Truro. With the addition of new information, we were able to move forward with setting a staff direction and policies on that issue. I have read impact statements and had conversations with at least 4 accommodation owners who feel a productive conversation with council may assist us in setting governance around the marketing levy. I ask that council grant an opportunity to this group of businesses to present their case as a whole.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be very quick. There's a couple things on this already tonight referring to that whole situation, and I've read those and totally agree that proceed forward with everything. This has gone on for a long, long time. It's been well thought out, well talked about, and I don't see any reason why we're gonna continue the conversation, so I'm gonna oppose the motion.
Thank you, Counselor. Further discussion? Anyone? We do have a marketing levy society in place now, I believe. And Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll speak on that. I am the
Yes,
representative
please.
on
I
that.
know you are.
We just had another meeting, so yesterday morning. We are so far ahead with this thing now. We're well over a year into it. We've had letters like this well over a year ago, and I'd like to hear Jen say something on this, but I don't think it will make any impact at all for anyone to sit in front of us at this point. We're so far ahead. And we're just ready to form this thing and roll it out here now, but I'd like to hear what our Director of Economic Development would say on this. So Jen, maybe you can comment on it, give your thoughts, and I know you've been heavily involved with this also.
Thank you, Counselor, and I'll ask Jen, our Economic Development Officer, to address it, please.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I don't know the specific conversations that Councillor Martel has had with the constituents. I have had some, direct correspondence with the Starlit Village. We've given them, a lot of information about what's happening with the levy and the collection process. And it does very much appear that their frustration is with the administration piece and that burden. I'll note they're not in compliance with the levy to date. They haven't made their payments. And there is a piece of this that we're at a point where we're ready to launch a very robust strategy. And we're prepared financially, both in reserves and sustainable funding. So, if the request of these constituents is to pause action or to stop collection, that would be very detrimental, I think, to the overall action and the work that's been done to date. However, I don't necessarily think there's harm in hearing them out if that's the councillor's request. I would suggest that perhaps including perhaps the chair of the Tourism Society might be good, so then they can speak directly to the work of the society and the planned action that's in place.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Benoit.
Thank you, Mayor Blair. I had a conversation with Jen on this yesterday just to get a little more information and understand a little bit more. And she had made some great points. I never mind listening to residents and what they have to say. So I would be open to hearing them, but I do realize that we have come a long way with this. So I'm okay with hearing what they have to say, but I do believe that there's been a lot of work done to date, and most are happy with the work that's been done. So thank you.
Further comments? We have a motion on the floor to allow the Starlit proper name, Starlit Beach Village organization to speak to council.
Question?
Are you ready for the question? The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay.
Nay.
Nay. Nays, please. Councillor Weatherby, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Patton, and myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. The motion is carried. And our CAO, please.
So, just from a clarity perspective, what we would do is we have our regular presentation night would be the avenue in which they would be proceeding. And so we already have folks in the queue. So this would likely be something that would be happening a little bit later in the fall. So it wouldn't be anything that would be happening in the next month, as we already have presentations lined up.
Thank you. The next item is a letter from Stephanie Jones, Chair of the Rec Board of Directors. Councillor Martel.
I'm going to declare a conflict of interest with the items number 6 and number 7.
Thank you. Okay. And this letter is from Stephanie Jones. You would have read it, I'm sure. And she is asking for an extension to prepare a comprehensive report and ensure a well-informed and productive AGM. So she's asking for the annual general meeting. It's 3 months following the fiscal year, which is June 30th. And she's asking that it be extended to October 2025. What are your wishes, council? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Just through the chair to council. This request actually came to me via a meeting with the rec as one of the early meetings, of course, as we've had a transition with the board. And so this is the formality catching up to a verbal conversation, this item and the following item. And so I just wanted council to be aware while this is kind of catching up to something, there was a discussion with the chair of the board sometime before the July 23rd date on this. And basically from a perspective of a new board trying to form and get a number of things done, the letter was catching up to a discussion that happened sometime before that. So just for folks clarity on, we did receive this verbally before July 23rd.
And that would apply to both the number 6 and number 7. Okay,
That's correct.
so is there any objection to taking the two of those together? No. So we could look at both number 6 and number 7 together. Councillor Johnson.
I'm prepared for a motion on the floor to accept both of these and grant them the extension they're looking for the AGM deadline, 25, and I believe it's the same deadline for both of it, or one. What's the deadline for the second one? August 15th, so it's 2 different dates.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we grant the request to October 25 and the other one for August 15th, 2025.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Cooper.
Just a quick, obvious question. Since August 15th is already gone, are the financials ready? So can you do the CAO, please?
So the financials have been apologies through the chair. So the financials were already approved at a board level and we received them. And so they've been incorporated already into our work that we're moving ahead with. So they were out of sync by about 2 weeks. But we did receive a draft version well before that, which allowed us to start working, and then the board did meet and approve them. They still just have to go to the AGM. So it's all been incorporated into our work.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Further just Councillor Weatherby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question. What is the date of the AGM?
We don't have that yet unless you do. No, it'll be October, but I don't have the date yet.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? You ready for the question? Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. For the two items, 6 and 7. Councillor Martel. The next item on the agenda is an email from Marion McCauley, president of the Truro Curling Club. And it's requesting support for Curling Club Revitalization Fundraising Campaign. The letter is self-explanatory. And council, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to accept it. Or the fund.
Well, maybe you would like to refer it to staff.
Okay, I'll look at it. That's what you want to do first.
And well, put your microphone on, please.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll make a motion to refer it to staff or bring it back next week.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Leggett and seconded by Councillor Cooper that this item be referred to staff for further information. Discussion on the motion? Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you, council. We do have an addendum for an action item piece of correspondence tonight. And that is a letter received from Kevin Toth and Darlene Grant Fander chair and president respectively of the tourism tie-ins. And it's a self-explanatory letter to mayor and council requesting that the municipality of Colchester pause advancement of the new tourism marketing levy. You will see attached to this a draft letter to Mr. Toth and Ms. Feander and tourism board members. And our CAO, were you going to address this, please?
The first, just for a quick comment, then I'd like to defer it over to Jen if I could. So we just received this letter, wanted to make sure that it came to council and that we do have a proposed draft response that would come from staff. And it's just basically clarifying some items in there that may not 100% be representative of what's happening, but I think I'll turn it over to Jen and she can explain a little better, but in essence, where this would go would simply be if staff is comfortable, we could do a response from staff to clarify the comments. And to Jen.
Thank you. And Jen, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Dan indicated, there's a draft letter in front of you this evening. Essentially, after reviewing the tie-ins letter and their concerns, we definitely felt it was a bit misinformed and there was limited research on, actualities of what's been done with the Colchester marketing levy. So the letter just essentially outlines, history of our consultation processes, gives them a pretty detailed indication of what we've done with regards to public engagement, what our plan for governance is, comments on our collaboration with regional partners. I also note that the letter very much seemed concerned with perhaps the provincial process and not so much specific to any of our actions. Because when you look at the call to actions on the last page of the letter, we're actually implementing either practices or procedures that are in line with all of, I think it was 7 or 8 things that they identified. We've done all of those. So we're in a strong position to respond to their asks where they're already in place. I also note that to my knowledge, this also wasn't sent to other municipalities. It was sent directly to Colchester exclusively. From a few conversations just to inquire if other municipalities had received it. And it was just us. So I suspect it was specifically some operators in Colchester that had reached out to tie-ins for representation, as that's their job to represent their industry. So the letter's before you this evening, and it just explains to them and gives them some opportunity to further collaborate with our tourism society that's now formed. I'm happy to answer questions though, specifically on the letter, or make modifications if council's not completely comfortable with it as is. Thank you.
Thank you. Have you all had an opportunity to read this letter? It was on table. Okay. Then before we get into further discussion, I'm prepared to entertain a motion. And Councillor Martel.
I would motion that council approve this letter to be sent to the tie-ins board in response to the letter that they have sent to us.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Cooper.
Speaking of it.
Yes, Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, so very quickly, so the same reason I'm asking the council to send us letters. What I said before is we've had a lot of time on this. It's time for it to go forward and we have done all the work we need to do. And the key line in this whole letter from them is they say they'll continue to engage in the industry perspective. However, at the present time, there's no industry consensus regarding the implementation or management of a province-wide marketing levy for accommodation operators. So they have no idea what should happen, but they want us to stop. So things all are basically totally opposed to that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion on the motion? That we proceed with the letter. Councillor Martel.
I would just like to compliment staff on the very inclusive, well-worded, detailed letter that will be sent back with some excellent work.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? Are you ready for the question? Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. The proposed letter will be sent to the Tourism Industry Association of Nova Scotia And I thank you for the discussion on that. Thank you, Jen. The next item, we move into our information items and the let's see, oh yes, information. We do have information correspondence, sorry. And the development officer has done a copy of our development activity report for June and July 2025. And our building inspector has given us a copy of our building permit statistics report for June and July 2025. And as you can see, they're up from 2024. And that's encouraging. Certainly 13 plans were approved, and that's up from 2024. 72 plans approved for the year to date. And then, of course, building permit activity report, you can see we're up just about $10 million. So that's significant. Does anyone have any questions with regards to either of these reports? Then I'm prepared to entertain a motion that they both be accepted for information. Moved by Councillor Patton, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Discussion on the motion? Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. And information items. The first item is the award of the tender for Osprey Paving. And this is a public works item. It's self-explanatory. Does anyone have any questions of our Director of Public Works on this particular item?
Just a clarification,
Councillor Kennedy?
just a clarification there. Is it all of Osprey or just the main part of it? The main street go?
I'll ask our Director of Public Works to address that, please.
Through the chair, so it's Osprey itself, 450 meters, or just the straight stretch coming into the end on Osprey. So not the entire subdivision, but just Osprey itself.
I guess a follow-up question.
Yes, Councillor.
There to you. Why can't we do the whole thing? Cost? There's a lot of complaints coming into me about the side streets not being looked at.
Yes, so through the chair, so partially it is cost because we put so much money aside every year for repaving projects. Partially, it's also every year we do an assessment of condition of all of our streets, and we tend to tackle them worst ones first. So what we'll do here in the fall is do another pass of all of our streets, take a look at the conditions, and the ones that are worst will get scheduled into the 5-year. And so it's really about the condition of the remaining. So the main drag Osprey was worse in worse conditions, so that's what we targeted.
Thank you.
Any further questions on this information? Okay, thank you. The next is an information item on weed control. And I'm sure that many of us, I know I have had some complaints with regards to the weeds and people working around. This gives certainly information on what the situation is, the weeds and resource information where you can get further information on them and the situations. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Cooper?
Yes, not a question, but just I want to thank staff for looking into this. I know myself in the past, I tried to get rid of some of the weed in my district. And when I looked up how to do it, it told me to use clear bags. So I'm because that didn't work very well with 50% effective sort of thing. So I see here it's supposed to be black bags and what to do with it afterwards. So I appreciate the additional information. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Anyone? Well, it's certainly a good piece of information to have, and thank you, Paul, to you and your staff. The next item is the Central Nova Scotia Tourism Development Society bylaws, and This is another piece of information. We've been talking about this evening, and we do have our economic development officer here if you have any questions with regards to this. Any questions? You'll see the bylaws for the nonprofit society, definitions, interpretation, membership, all of the things that it takes to set this society up. Society is already in place. We have our members. Councillor Johnson is our representative as a municipality. No questions? Thank you, Jen. The next item are reports from council members, and I hope you enjoyed -3 meetings in July. I think everything else remained pretty much the same. And I do thank you all for your reports. And also, I want to, I'm was particularly pleased to see the minutes, Councillor Weatherby, that you attached to your report. It gives us an overview of the Solid Waste Resource Management Regional Chairs Committee, and appreciated that insight that we don't usually get as a council. Any questions, councillors, on anyone's report? Of the reports that we have? Then once again, I thank you all for the work that you're doing in this regard, because that's what we do as councillors, dealing with our residents and our constituents. Thank you all. Now, we will move into closed session, and I'm prepared to entertain a motion that we go into closed session. Moved by Councillor Martel. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor